Hello, everyone. Today we are breaking down the new construction process for your home. Everything new construction. First of all, why in the world would you want to rip open your house? Well, there's a couple reasons. Number one, let's say you want to make a window into a door. That would be new construction. Number two, out of necessity, if you have leaking or dry rot, we're definitely going to have to go in new construction. And number three, if you wanted to change any sizes or shapes of your windows, we are doing new construction. So, Sybil, how are you this morning?
I'm doing amazing. How are you today?
Great. Could you break down for us the new construction process and kind of walk us through the language?
Well, now you're speaking my language. Yes, absolutely. So I have a couple pictures here of some new construction applications. So we are general contractors. We can literally build a house from the ground up if we need to. Most of the time, thank God, we don't need to go that crazy, right? But like you mentioned, there are some instances where you're going to have to do new construction, leaking, changing openings, all that kind of good stuff. So what we're going to do is take that existing opening, chip out the stucco around it, take out that whole unit that's there. We'll go ahead and mount and flash the new window. So this is that moisture barrier, right? That's a really important part to a new construction application. So even if a homeowner, let's say, is redoing all their stucco, they have a contractor that wants to do a lot of the finish work, we'll do this part, the mount and flash install. That way they get a full lifetime warranty on not just the product, but the install itself. So this will guarantee against any kind of leaking, redoing that last scratch and brown, which is going to be the chicken wire and the stucco and all that stuff. We can do that too. And I can show you pictures of that as well. So here's a good shot. Ta-da!
Okay, so let's take it back because I wasn't sure exactly what you said. So lath, scratch, brown.
Yeah.
What are those three things for everyone out there?
So you have the mount and flash, right? So you actually nail the window onto the framing of the house. And then you have the moisture paper. So that protects your home against moisture. You're not going to get any water coming in through your walls or any mold or any real, terrible issues. From there, you put the chicken wire on there. And then you have several layers. So the last scratch and brown is getting to that finished stucco. So there is quite a bit of material between where that window is nailed onto the framing and the actual exterior stucco of your home. So we can do all that work for you. It's something that we do offer. Sometimes homeowners are doing other projects like redoing the stucco or doing paint and they want to do things themselves. We'll coordinate with them to do whatever needs to get done. So this one here, so you can see, when he's doing that finished stucco. And this one is really a great example because stucco, it may strike you as like, yeah, that's just stucco. It's fine. It's not that hard. It's hard. Doing stucco is really an art form. We have talented guys like him that can really match it very well, feather it out. Part of the new construction install too is chipping it out correctly. So you don't just cut it, on an even line. You want to chip it out so when you feather it back, it really looks like nothing ever took place. There's nothing worse than walking up to a home and seeing like a big thing around the window where you can tell that it's been ripped out.
Because the last thing that we want is to have this project look like Frankenstein's monster.
Yes.
Where it's like you can see very clearly, and here you can see very clearly where our stucco stops and theirs starts because we would not paint this product. But the way I like to kind of explain it to my clients is it's almost like the Braille test, to where if you were closing your eyes and kind of let the stucco dry, of course, and then kind of moved your fingers across our stucco to their stucco, you shouldn't be able to feel a difference. You will be able to see the difference between the paint and where we had the new one, but so I call it kind of the Braille test.
Yeah, that's
we will
a great example.
retexture it to have it match, but we will not paint it. So at the end, when it's all painted and said and done, it should look like that window has always been there and the house is just kind of giving it a warm hug in a sense.
Yeah, I use the stucco whisperer.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it's 100% true. So we don't sub anybody out. The finished stucco is a very big deal aesthetically. To your point, Sybil, if you can see where somebody had done the work, it's not good. Feathering that out and matching texture is very important because there are different textures out there, as we all know with stucco. So that aesthetically has to be very, very pleasing. And again, we do not paint.
So this is a great example for that because there is color coat stucco, right?
Yep.
So color in the stucco that kind of sort of matches what's existing. We will use that so that it blends in as well as possible, but we do not paint. So once we do the stucco, if you want it to match exactly, you would have to go back and paint that wall. This one is a great example of that. And these windows were cut down for egress. Egress is a fire code that you need to be able to exit, and a firefighter needs to be able to get in the event of a fire. A lot of older buildings will have the sill height too high. They'll need to drop those windows down to meet that code. This install did call for that. So we did new construction. You can tell the difference on just how thin that framing is. So one, aesthetic detail to nail fin is not having that retrofit border. So you'll see that trim on the outside of a retrofit. You won't have that trim on the exterior of a nail fin in most cases. Now, our guys are so talented, they can actually make it look like a retrofit even when it's new construction.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, if you're not concerned about the aesthetic, this is on the side of the building, didn't really matter to them as much. We'll just do a nail fin application.
Absolutely. And I think that goes back to the aesthetic features and making sure that they're all matching because, like, for example, on this one, let's say they had the retrofit window there we're looking at to the left, and that's the one that has the slightly thicker frame. And then, like you said, there's an egress problem, or they wanted to put a new window in there where there was not one previously. Then we'll do what's called a mill core install, where we'll literally just punch a hole, do the same thing that we would do with a nail fin, but then almost build another frame within that we can retrofit that to. So at the end, you've got that same I think it's about 3 1/4 flange that's going to be sitting on the outside of both of those windows to make sure that it all lines up and looks beautiful.
Exactly. Yep. And our guys, they're tasked with making it look however that customer really needs it to look.
And to be very clear, because again, for those listening may not know the language that we use.
Yeah.
So we talked about retrofit, and that is talking about the actual fin, the retro fin. When we talk new construction, it is also sometimes called nail on. So that's where it can get a little confusing. Nail on and new construction are the same. And the reason it's called nail on is because
you nail it on.
You nail it onto the studs. Makes sense, right? And it doesn't come with that retro flange on the exterior.
Yeah.
So what are we looking at here?
So this is an example of that mill core type install.
Beautiful.
So you can tell that stucco is still drying, but you get that border on the outside to match the retrofit look. So like you mentioned, you want to drop a window down to a door. Let's say you really want to be able to use that as an exterior access opening. You can have that match your other windows that are just retrofit, and no one would know the difference. Yeah. Not even us, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. And so window to door cut downs, those are very, very popular. What is required to be on the outside, though, when we make a window into a door?
A light.
A light. Ooh. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Why a light?
Yeah.
Yep. You always, whenever accessing the exterior, have to have a light to be able to see. You also have to have somewhere to step. So, there's been customers over the years, I just want to rip this balcony off, but I have a door there. You can't do that. Yeah.
No, and another thing with the window to door is that window. So let's say we have about a 28-inch window or something like that. Right above that window, there's going to be something called a header. So that's going to be a nice thick piece of wood that's going to redistribute the weight from the roof all the way back down and send it to the trimmers, which would be right underneath the header and just to the left and right of the windows, so that all that weight is distributed correctly. So if we have like a 28-inch window and you wanted to put in a 36-inch door, we're now changing
more construction.
The width. Exactly. So we're now changing the width of that opening. So the way you have to think about it is that the width of that header has to match the width of that door, or else it's not going to be fully supported. So in that case, that's why it's nice to where we are general contractors. We will go find the proper sized header, install that to the frame, and then as just a normal nail fin install, it would be quite simple. But
And to your point, it's much easier in construction to go either straight down or in. It's a little more difficult to expand an opening. We can do that too, and especially today with that indoor-outdoor living, vibe that people want. We do big bifolds, we do huge multi-slides, and I mean, you had one that you sent me that was 8-9 panel bifold.
Oh yeah.
Had a huge header. We did full new construction. These things are all possible. It's just a matter of do you want to go through engineering, the permit process, which we help our customers with, but it's a lot more intense to go through that type of project.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So again, that header, there's an existing header over their current windows, only as wide as that current window and or that current door. So what I tell customers is almost anything is possible. Just remember that anytime you are going wider, you are getting into much bigger construction. Right there, we can see the header above that door. So going wider requires a whole new header.
Yeah.
Which is a very big deal. You don't want your house collapsing down.
This especially was a 2-story home. So that's, a little scary when you start actually getting into structural, having to get engineers involved and then getting approved through the permit process. It can be a lot of work. If a customer really wants to go that route, we are more than happy to go with them. It's just a matter of going through the motions.
Like I had a customer who had an existing single entry door, and then they wanted to knock it out a little bit and make it a wider double entry door. So we ended up, and here's the deal, nobody has x-ray vision. We don't know what's structural. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes there. So what ended up happening was that door, the single door, had a structural post directly to the right. So when we were breaking everything out, we started to realize if we knock this post down, the whole house is going to collapse, which is not an option.
Nope.
So what we ended up doing is we put an engineering post directly to the right of it so that would support the opening in the meantime while we went and framed out the new header and made everything nice and pretty. And then we were able to install that double entry door to that.
Wow.
So that's something that an average glazer or somebody who's just, maybe they're an artist and beautiful, just high level painter, but that's not installing windows. So that's why it takes a real professional to come in there, not just be able to diagnose the things, but then be able to think in real time and solve those problems as they present themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Just a couple more shots. This is actually one of my favorite pictures because Javier's like, what's up?
Javier.
These are all our guys are amazing, but Gabe and Javier, I mean, they've been with us forever and they're just amazing guys. Complete amazing installs. The pictures that come out of their jobs are just incredible. In fact, a lot of these are their pictures. But here's another good example of a full nail-thin new construction application. Stucco's been done. Once that thing is painted, I mean, you just see how beautiful that's going to look.
So talk about the actual install, like when we show up. What is the first thing the guys do? How long is the install? Because the process is longer than a retrofit application. Can you walk us through that, Jake?
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of people's concern is when we go in there and do, let's say it's like a 20 window job. Are we going to do all the demo, leave 20 holes in, and then fill 10 of them, and then come back tomorrow and fill the other 10?
Sorry. I didn't realize
good.
it was going to...
And what we're looking at here is Gabe operating
there we go.
multi-slide.
Sorry to interrupt there.
No, we're good. So of course, before we do any of that, we're going to cover everything in your home. We're going to make sure that the interior and exterior workspaces are prepared to kind of handle a mess. So we'll put like a big old tarp underneath it so that once all that stucco is chipped out, we'll be able to just fold that up, take it away. You're not going to have to deal with any of that damage or any of the kind of repercussions of that damage. But also... excuse me, on the back end, it's going to be, we're not going to have holes in your house and then just leave. Like, we are going to make sure and plan it out in a way where we're going to do, let's say it's a 3-day job. Okay. So we'll knock out maybe 2 windows and a door on the first day. Let's say if it's only one crew or a small job or something like that. And then we're going to finish those openings or at least have them nailed and flashed, which is where we have all of the proper sealant barriers and everything in place. We just haven't finished the stucco. But that will be the bare minimum that we will leave that at. We want to make sure that the job is completed, or at least that your house is secure by the time we leave and then come back the next day for that job. So that's very, 100%. Very vital. It's a big concern.
It's valid though.
It can be a little messy.
For no one who's done it before, they're like, are you going to leave me with plywood?
Yeah.
Or an opening? And no, we will never do that.
No, ma'am.
Also, the process beforehand, as we set up the installation, when we're calling them and scheduling it with the homeowner, they not only know what day we're going to start it, but how many days we plan on being there so that they can kind of tackle all that.
Absolutely. And that's, I think, a blessing that comes with having 23 years of installation data, to where we now know like the average amount of time that a single retrofit window takes, or that a door takes, or if that door is greater than 8 feet.
We have a calculator for it now.
Exactly. We have a completely measured out calculator that decides and kind of gives us some intel on how long we're going to be there at each job. And not everyone has that, and not to any fault of their own. They just don't have 23 years of installation data to work off of. You know?
That's exactly right.
So that's kind of a blessing working with a company like us because we know exactly what it will take and why it will take that long. And we'll make sure that that you are fully aware of all of those things. We don't want to just, do our job and then let you just trust us. Like, we will walk you through that process and hold your hand throughout this deal. But yeah.
So because it's a much more detailed process and construction, of our 53 crews, do we have now? 53?
Yeah.
53 in-house crews. How many of those crews handle new construction?
If I had to guess, I would say at least half of them are really talented guys that we would put first up on that type of job.
Got it.
All of those guys, by the way, are completely certified and can handle anything that we throw at them. We're very particular, though. We really want to put the right guy on the right install. So if somebody's really great at retrofit, we want them installing retrofit windows. If they're really great at new construction, we want them installing the new construction windows. So Gabe is actually a perfect example, right? He's been with us forever. He can do anything under the sun. This guy is the most talented installer. He put in my windows. But I mean, he's just great.
Yeah.
So I would say all the new construction jobs that go through CME, they're looking for Gabe to put in those jobs. Can the rest of the guys in CME do it? Absolutely. Do we just love how he installs those in particular? Yeah, we do. Well,
it's like
so I would say half, are the first up type guys.
It's like a baseball team, like you let your pitcher be the pitcher, and he will throw strikes all day. He will take care of his elbow.
That's exactly right.
Get back rubs in the dugout while everyone else is doing the other stuff. But we don't want him to go up to bat and go swing for us. Like, we want him to do exactly what he is good at, and then let the slugger go and rip dingers. You know?
And if he has to, he's still on an MLB team, right? He's still talented. He can swing the bat. He's just not the guy that you want first up.
Absolutely. We want to make sure that each individual product is handled by each individual specialist at that product or product line or installation style or whatever that might call for. That's the blessing of having that many people to
I was going to say, that's what's so cool about our company. Like, what other company actually really cares about what guy is going on to what job, right? They just care about, do I have a job to go to today? It's a different mentality entirely.
Absolutely. And I think that speaks to the mentality of us as project managers, is like, I go in there with the mindset of, I am employing a group of people to come out and install this job. We're creating jobs. We're creating, things for people to do on a daily basis. And I think that's so beautiful about our job is we get
It's amazing.
Exactly. We get to create a new workspace, a new almost independent company all in one little job. Each one is completely different than the last.
That's so funny. That's what was going through my mind while you're saying that. I'm like, and every job is like a new day, right?
Absolutely.
No matter if it's the same product, same type of install, it's a completely different house. Like, you never go to a house and measure exactly the same windows or talk about exactly the same kind of thing. Different people have different needs. Somebody who lives in the valley is going to have a different need than somebody who lives by the beach. I live in Northridge. It's hot. I want a window that's going to cool me down, right?
Absolutely.
If you live in Malibu, you may not care so much, but you want the view, right? You want a beautiful view. So that's where we really get to just, work with our customers and find exactly what they need.
Yeah. So speaking of view, one of my favorite parts about being a project manager is coming in and helping design the house, which is a lot easier to do when we're talking about new construction.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the sexiest thing about new construction. Bifold doors and multi-slides. They are certainly popular today. Certainly popular. No more the 6 to 8 foot single sliding doors. We are seeing much larger openings.
So
some of our manufacturers are going up to 20 feet wide. Yeah. You heard me correctly. 20 feet wide on a door, 20-foot door. That is really attractive. So, Sybil, if you could walk us through the difference between multi-slide and some of the downsides of that in terms of construction.
Yeah.
And then bifolds.
So this one actually was one that we did the full new construction application on, and that's a multi-sliding door. So you can see the center panels will actually go all the way back to either side. The nice thing about sliding multi-slide doors is you get a lot of open space. It's less expensive. Anything that slides is going to be less expensive than anything hinged. It's more engineering. It's more, it's just a lot more in terms of product and installation for bifold to operate and work and warranty versus something that slides. It's easier for operation purposes. The downside, though, is the thickness of the track. So you need a really thick track to accommodate multiple panels. Sometimes people's walls won't really accommodate that. You have to build it, to accommodate it on the insides. You might have a different look, on your wall. Those types of things can pose a challenge but we can always work around them and work with the customer to get that done. Bifolds are really popular because you get the entire opening. So they do collapse back and stack on top of each other on the exterior of the home. You do have the thickness of the panel, but I mean, that's only a couple inches per panel. So
Yeah, it's nominal.
So back to what you said, though, quickly before we get into the bifold. So the multi-slide. So if we're looking at this door and it's a 6-panel multi-slide and the customer decided to slide it all the way to one side, that means 6 panels have to stack over top of each other.
So they do have some
Thicker,
limitations. So
Right.
if it's over 3 panels, they will make you stack them to either side. So I think the thickest, and we could pull up technical drawings, of course, but thickest one that I've seen is about 12 inches.
Thicker
and
than a Snicker. Come on. Yeah.
It's a heck of a lot thicker than most people's walls. So that is what you have
Very.
to accommodate.
Right.
Yeah. But a lot of different manufacturers do these types of products. So what you're looking at is a wind door. Very popular because it's energy efficient, it's vinyl, great warranty, beautiful product. Might have a few limitations in terms of options though, where you can get Lincoln, you can get Windsor, other very high-end products that might be more expensive, but offer you a lot of different choices.
Beautiful. Now on the bifold doors, obviously the most expensive option, super cool, but they only swing outside the house. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's really important for the customers to know. Could you go over even in odd panels what that means for the customer?
So actually, Windor just came out with exterior hardware on even panels, which is great news to window nerds everywhere. So historically, Lincoln, Windsor, Windor, anytime you have an even number of panels, they don't have exterior access. So what that means, if a customer closes their door and they're outside, there's no hardware to operate to open that unit up. Nowadays, Windor does offer that, so that's a nice solution through them. But if you still purchase a 2, 4, 6 panel through Windsor or Lincoln, you're not going to get exterior hardware.
Literally can't get in your house from the exterior.
Now, why is that though?
Good question. This nerd has been trying to find that out for quite some time. I've been told it's something, with the hardware and they can't seem to get it to operate correctly with the even number of panels. So I generally speaking stick to 3, 5, panel operations if I can.
And in fairness, I have had clients that have very modern homes. Yeah. So if you think about it like this, there are modern homes that don't even have hardware on their kitchen cabinets.
Yeah.
So when you want a very, very sleek look, even number of panels with no hardware on the exterior is going to match the rest of the house. So very important to aesthetically match whatever theme is going on with the home. And in that case, they wouldn't care so much about hardware.
Actually, Windor has an amazing website. Let me see if I can pull it up.
Let's see it.
And as she's pulling that up, it is very important to note that most cities, and especially if you're in a 2-story home, is going to require engineering before we take a standard size door and make it now 20 feet wide. We want to make sure that your house does not fall down in the process.
Absolutely.
We don't want any of that to happen.
So this is a great example of that bifold unit, right? So really indoor, outdoor feel. You can see how open this is to their balcony, lots of airflow. One challenge too is a screen. So they don't come with screens. Same with French doors. There's some limitations there. But I mean, when it's closed, looks gorgeous. When it's open, looks great. Ta-da! I actually made a reel about dancing bifolds, by the way.
Miss Window, check it out.
Big door.
Yeah, huge door. They can do a lot of different configurations. Really just makes the home look that much more grand, right? Normal doors look amazing, but this is really just something different and unique that customers are looking for, and that we get a lot of inquiries about.
Yeah, and it's perfect for it's for a party. So let's say you wanted to bring the kind of inside and outside and have them all be together, because I know a lot of times I'll have parties where it'll be all of my friends and then all of their moms and everything. So some people want to be outside, some people want to be inside, but everyone wants to be a part of the same thing.
Totally.
And that's where the bifold doors and multi-slides come in handy, because now you get to open up that indoor and it kind of gets to meet the outdoor and everyone gets to be on the same spot. Or you can do the same thing on a bifolding window. So that's the perfect example right there. You could pop that thing open. You could have, maybe a little sangria bar, a little margarita guy.
Yes.
You can start mixing.
Now we're
shuffling.
talking.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Passing food back and forth, right?
Oh, yeah.
But absolutely open and collapse all those panels back, open that bifold window, and your party is just very seamless. You can come in and out and feel like you're a part of the mix.
So my favorite new construction window that I ever did was in a shower.
Ooh, what?
Yes. So in most showers they have that little window up at the top.
Yeah.
It's just got the little slider. So I show up at this house and they're overlooking the ocean. And he said, I want this entire thing to be a window, right down to the floor.
Jeez.
Yeah. So just know this is an option if you're not facing a neighbor's house.
I was going to say.
Unless you don't like the neighbor or you want to get to know your neighbor very
Or if
well.
you really like the
You
neighbor.
really like the neighbor. Obviously, and that will bring us into there's obscure glass options. You can choose to obscure the glass. This particular client was overlooking the ocean and no one could see him unless they're in the ocean with some binoculars looking at him showering. So we were able to open up the entire wall of glass and it looked like he was showering outdoors.
Wow.
That's so cool.
So cool.
That is so cool. And
Yeah.
of course, that would have to be tempered and all of that stuff, and we can get into that in later episodes as far as codes and what to look out for. But in the short term, what are we looking at?
So I just want to mention how much manpower we have. No, I'm just teasing. But I love this shot because I was standing there and looking at these installers and they're just going at it and there's a bunch of them, right? And it's just so fun to see them like all working on this one opening. That was actually the same, sorry to almost spill a drink on you guys. This is actually that same opening here. So this is that same door. It was an existing door. We ripped it out and then replaced it with a new Anlin slider.
Was there a reason that they went new construction as opposed to retrofit? Do we remember on this one?
Yeah, they had other units on that same wall that they were doing construction, so they wanted everything to match.
Everything to match.
Yeah.
And that's when people show me pictures of like the super like the Pinterest photos of like, oh, the nice sleek frames and the modern, then minimal amount of frame, maximum amount of glass. There really is only one way to achieve that look, and that is through new construction. So sometimes the aesthetic of the house will just call for that, because we could definitely retrofit maybe like a black vinyl product and give that same general aesthetic, but it will still have that nice thick frame around the exterior, which on one house might look great. On another house, it might look a little bit too bulky. So in that case, it could be just a strictly aesthetic decision to, let's say, let's just thin out these frames to the maximum and make it look like a catalog, which is what we're great at doing.
And to be very clear, it is very customizable. So I have done homes where the front of the home we did new construction because they wanted that sleek look. They didn't want the retro fins on the exterior. They wanted to change the sizes a little bit. We were focused on the front of the home that was facing the street on aesthetics.
Yeah.
Right. And then to save cost, and they weren't changing any other openings, sizes and whatnot, the rest of the home can be done in retrofit. So it can be done either way. Now, in this example, when you have two windows that are very close together, right next to each other, I would never advise someone to do a retrofit and a new construction because they would look very different next to them.
Totally agree. And in this case, you wouldn't even do a Milcor because look how close those guys are together, right?
Those fins would be just smooching, and that's not what we really want there. Just have to seal that up in that case.
The nerd just said a nerdy word, Milcor.
Milcor.
What in the world is Milcor?
Milcor is a type of install where it is new construction, but we're making it look like a retrofit install. Perfect. So just like you mentioned, making sure the aesthetics all align, the house looks really symmetrical and beautiful. We can do a new construction if it's necessary and match existing retrofit windows. So if one window has an issue, like you want to cut it down and make it a different size or do some type of construction, you can still do that and have it match the rest of the house in retrofit. So you don't have to break the bank and do all new construction everywhere. You can just go ahead and do what you need.
Right. So we can make a new construction window or door look like a retrofit.
Absolutely.
But we can't do the opposite.
Make a retrofit look like an oven? No.
Not really,
No. And there are clients that, are very particular, or they have a very, particular type of house and they want that really thin framing on the exterior. The only way to achieve that is new construction. So, that is the same as having a window that you want to change the size on. If you're that particular about the exterior, you'll have to do new construction.
Got it. Amazing.
Yeah, and I think back to it, because even on like a block frame window where people think, oh, there's no fin on that. Like, why can't I make that one look thin? Because there's still sealant problems. So when we come inside that frame on a retrofit, which you're thinking, what's a retrofit? Go to episode 1 of Let's Talk Vision. We will be able to explain it in grave detail. But that block frame, we're still going to have a little bit of a gap in between our window and the old window. So in that case, you'd probably have to coil wrap it, but there's still no way to just put stucco over it, and you know,
Right.
we don't really want to put lipstick on a pig here. We want to make sure that we're doing everything right in accordance to what you have existing.
Got it.
So this is a great picture of that block type of install that you're talking
Yeah.
about. So existing wood windows, they were old single pane, just put those new windows right in there. But you do still have that existing wood trim. So it's not exactly really thin on the outside because we're using that to seal the new window and complete that install. So if you really didn't want any of that trim, you would have to rip it all out, nail it on. In this particular application, though, because it's siding, you'd still have some kind of trim on the outside. So best to stick with retrofit. Sorry if the nerd just showed up.
No, absolutely. But I mean, that goes back to just there is not a one-size-fits-all window or one-size-fits-all installation for anything. And that's, I think, pretty much the same in any other field that you're even looking at. That's not what we're looking for. I think everyone wants to have that one-size-fits-all solution because they think that's going to make them a ton of money, but that's not really what we're doing this for. We want to make sure that every single job is done correctly, and correct could mean a lot of different things depending on where we're at. And like,
that's always the best question, right? Well, how much do your windows cost?
Right.
And it's like, well, you just asked a very interesting question because I could go on for a couple of hours. I mean, it would go way past this podcast. But, what material do you want? What type of installation do you need? All those things are going to factor into the price. You can have a window range thousands of dollars depending on what you're looking to accomplish.
And I know that sounds intimidating of, oh my gosh, there's way more that goes into this than I thought. But we want to make sure that you understand that's why we want to come out there to you, because we can look eye to eye and figure out exactly what it is that you're looking for and then explain that to you in great detail. And that is, so I mean, how long have you been in this business?
9 years.
How long have you been in this business?
Oh God, you're going to make me show my age. Since 2000. Actually, it's my anniversary with the company this month.
Wow.
I started in 2005. So what is that? 18 years.
Yeah, and then I guess I've been in it since I was 14-ish.
Since before you were born.
So about 8 or 9 years. Yeah,
Birth.
but really actually coming into work probably about 8 or 9 years. So our job is to condense 9 years, 50, whatever that looks like, into 1 hour for you. And that's not easy, but we don't expect it to be. Anything that's worth doing is not going to be easy. Which is why that's why we want to make sure that we have a design consultant come out there and figure out exactly what it is that you want and explain that to you in detail without making it too intimidating or long of a process. We want it to be as efficient as possible while you still know exactly what your window will look like and feel like when it's all said and done.
Super customizable. I have done 2 homes in the same neighborhood, same layout.
Yeah.
They were thousands of dollars different apart from each other. Some involved new construction, one was straight retrofit. Whatever that client wants or whatever their needs are, I always tell people how you live in the home, how you use your windows and doors is how we are going to approach that project.
And we can give you different options.
Right.
Yeah. I love, the nerd in me thinks of computers. Like, my son uses a computer. He's not going to use the same computer I use. I need software systems. I need to operate differently on my machine. So if I'm going to look for a computer, I'm probably going to spend, a good chunk of change. He just needs the, $150 Acer off the shelf to be able to do a Word document and go online. So we, are flexible with our customers. What are you looking for? We don't have a preference necessarily. We just want to make sure we give you the right thing. We don't want to give you that souped up computer if all you need to do is just go online and do a Word document, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So we know, let's get into what really some people do get concerned about, and it's valid. What if something goes wrong? You open up my walls and there's mold because somebody has bubbling up walls. We can tell that there's been water damage, and they're fearful of what we're going to find when we open up that space. Talk about that process, what we go through, because when we do open it, again, we don't have X-ray vision. Sometimes we run into some things. What do we do? What does that look like?
Yeah, so there are some telltale signs, like if we come up to a window that has already been changed, but they didn't break the stucco, that would be retrofit, and we would be able to look beneath the flat trim and take a look at exactly what's going on behind it. Is there a frame there? Is there not a frame there? And then there'll be 2 different solutions based on the answer to that question. Or we'll take a look at it and notice that there's actually some bubbling in the drywall, which would be a telltale sign of water leakage or water damage or something of that nature, so we have to go in and address that problem. And we don't want to just, put lipstick on a pig. We want to actually do this thing right. Or there's a couple other ways that it can happen. But even if the project manager doesn't catch that things on the initial visit, we'll still have a measure technician come back out, and that's usually someone who has done install for like 15 years or something, but maybe they hurt their back or they just don't want to do that grind on a day-to-day basis, and they have all the head knowledge but really no way to apply it. So that's where they come in, and they'll take a look at the actual scope of the project and then kind of be the translator between the project manager and the installation team. And then even after that, if we still can't catch everything, like for example on that project that I was talking about earlier that had a structural post that we were having to knock out, we'll be able to kind of adapt and overcome and survive, almost like Bear Grylls a little bit, and put an engineering post up and kind of solve those problems as they come to us.
Absolutely.
So we're going to do our very best to anticipate everything that could happen and then plan for that. But then that's also the blessing of having the best guys on the planet, is they will also be able to kind of work around things as they start to present themselves.
Yeah.
And when you work in new construction, things will go wrong, but
100%.
We're the company that will be there and take care of everything. And like you said, work on the fly, get a quick solution that's correct, that fixes the problem, not just, put a Band-Aid, we're going to make it right. Unfortunately, in our industry, there's a lot of people who you can't get a hold of if they mess it up, or you can't get them to come and fix it. We're the opposite of that. We will always, stand behind our work. And if something comes up, we're going to take, every step we can to get it right and fix it and make sure at the end of the day you love your project.
So if a customer's main concern is just glass space that they're going to lose between a retrofit and a new construction. So I have no rotting, no change in the sizes. They don't really need to do new construction, but they want to know that glass space. What would you typically say about glass space, what you would lose the difference between retrofit and
it's
new
about
construction?
1.5 inches on all sides.
About 1.5 inches.
So,
Okay.
it becomes more noticeable when you have smaller windows. Yeah. So if you're retrofitting little, 24 by 24 picture windows, it's going to eat into your glass space. If you have big, huge, 94 by 48 sliders, you're probably not going to notice it as much. Again, it really depends on the customer. Just like with sightlines. So sightlines are the evenness on the outside of a window, how symmetrical it looks. There's been times where I pointed out to a customer like, oh, I would have never noticed that, and I don't care. I'm the kind of person, though, if I walk up and see an uneven sightline, I'm like, oh, they could have evened that out. Yeah. So, it just depends. What are you looking for your home? We have the right solution. You just need the option.
Yep. Okay, and lastly, and this is so important, the roof.
Oosh.
The roof.
Yeah.
You thought we were going to get away with not talking about the roof. This is super important.
It's very important because there's been multiple times where we will do a full nail fin install, replace the sealant paper, replace the flashing paper, re-stucco it, do everything, and then water still is coming through what seemingly is the top of your window. So what ends up sometimes happening is we'll have our guys come back out there. We'll do a bit of a leak detection test and try to see where it's coming from. But oftentimes what happens is there's a little bit of a crack on the top of your roof. And then that water gets in there and it dribbles all the way down to the window behind the new sealant barrier that we've created. And then it'll come through the top of your window. So we'll be able to kind of diagnose the problem. The actual prognosis for that is a new roof or new ceiling, whatever that looks like, which is why you always go outside in on a home remodeling project. So in that case, we'll be able to diagnose that problem for you and figure out exactly where it's coming from. And if it was our fault, then we will absolutely rip our window right back out and put it right back in the right way.
And there are water detection companies that
Absolutely.
Our clients can go to. But then also, as we're still on the roof, some of the concerns that the client will have is when we're doing new construction is our guys having to go on the roof, walking on their tiles. So walk me through some of those. I know we have some of our senior guys that are really small, and only those guys go up, and they're so cute. Like a real small guy. He's like, exactly. So tell me about him and what the caution we take to be careful about their roofs.
Oh yeah, so there's a couple of ways of going about doing it. That's why we have a project manager and a measure tech to come out there and take a look at the workspace and kind of get a diagnosis of what we'll need. And a lot of times, they have a solid roof or a nice sealed up patio that we can walk on, and it's all good and well. If that's the case, then we will absolutely do that. We'll still set up a proper workspace on the interior and exterior of that opening and make sure that any dust, stucco, or whatever that looks like will be caught and dealt with before it ever gets into places you don't want it. But if there is no workspace, like I think we've had a couple of times where we had a 4-foot tall building and there's just a flush wall there. There's nothing to get there. So in that case, we can do scaffolding. We can work with a third-party scaffolding company, have them put that up. We can do our own. We can get a boom lift. It's just there's the sky's the limit. We can do whatever it takes. There will be price and cost associated with those things, but we want to make sure that we're doing it right. So if we can get away with, trusting the tiles and trusting the roof that you have in place, then we will absolutely do that and send, little 5'2" Emilio up there.
Yes.
He is the man. You guys would love him if he came. I hope he comes and installs your guys' house. Or we would just build scaffolding and then make sure. And scaffolding, for those who might not know, it's almost like a giant H in a sense, where they're going to have two big metal bars going up, and then they'll have little planks of wood on each workspace wherever the window will be, and then that's where they would stand and be able to break the stucco out and then do the full installation from there. So
Got it.
Whatever happens, we'll have a way to do it. It's just figuring out the how, and that's why you.
We
call
also
us.
do Spider-Man installs.
Oh,
just kidding.
I was going to say,
Kind of.
please break that down.
I've seen the guys, where we do high rises occasionally, and they do have to lean out and do the perimeter, seal, and so I call them Spider-Man installs.
Yeah, and I remember I was like I was 18 years old doing install, and I was just a kid who was too dumb to be scared, and they just sent me up this ladder, and it was like you were saying, it was a bit of a high rise, and it was on like the 4th story, and so I climb all the way up the ladder, I get to the top, and then I turn around and look down, and my heart came out of me. Like it was an out of body experience, and the guy down there was just like, silicone gun coming up, just chucks this thing, grabbing it, hands are just shaking, I'm looking at it all, and then I had to do the silicone, then I break the stucco, and so it's a jackhammer pushing me out of the house, and it's
See,
scary,
you did
and
the Spider-Man install.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And here's the deal. God forbid if I would have fallen and snapped the L4 to my L7, whatever that looks like, we have workman's comp and liability insurance, and there would be no issue for the customer. I would have some issues. I'd be fine. But yeah, so we are prepared for whatever happens. I mean, we got guys who are just, we're a little bit crazy in the sense that we're probably going to overkill it. We're probably going to do more than is necessary, but that's kind of the name of the game.
I don't even go on step ladders. So I will
I know, I'm scared
measure
of
your
heights.
windows
Yeah.
from down
Yes.
below. I have perfected the technique.
Absolutely.
I'm
These
like,
guys,
my measure
they're-
tech will get up there.
They're so talented. I mean, I've seen them take these huge windows up
Yeah.
on scaffolding, and it's just incredible how they can get it done. I mean, it's like you're watching it. I don't know how that guy is lifting that up because, my God, I can't even get up there myself. Like, he has this huge window with him.
Yeah.
It's remarkable, but we're remarkable. It's
Yeah.
okay to say that. Our guys are the best.
Yeah.
We've ran the numbers. We've looked at the data. We've checked how many times we've had to service in accordance to other companies, and there's nobody like us, and that's why I'm so proud to be sitting.
You know
here
what's
with you
funny
guys.
is on Instagram, people hit me up, hey, can I have one of your installers? Other window companies.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, nope.
Home Depot tried to buy us, and they asked us to be their window installation company.
Like,
Nice.
we wish you all the
Yeah.
best in the world, but we're keeping our installers. Bye.
Yeah, absolutely.
And speaking of that, if you head over to Instagram, you can follow Sybil as Miss Window Nerd. You can find her on there. You can also find me on there, Gina_Perrin. Go ahead and give our office a call if you'd like to book an appointment. If you'd like to see me personally, ask for me. If I have time or if I'm not booked out, I will be the one coming out to see you. Thank you for listening to Everything All New Construction today. And be visionary, my friends.
Let's talk vision.